Good afternoon and welcome all those present here. Good morning to those dwelling west of Israel, and good evening to the Antipodeans in Australia. It is with great pleasure that I open the 14th Orality and Literacy Conference dedicated to the subject of textualization. It is also with a great relief, since many obstacles threaten the mere existence of this conference. We regret that despite the efforts made by our speakers and by us, the organizers, most of the participants from abroad were not able to come in person, but they will attend on Zoom. We have gathered here in this splendid venue thanks to the generous support of the Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities, which will host us this evening and tomorrow. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we will enjoy the hospitality of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. These two institutions made the conference possible. So, with this feeling of gratitude, I invite Professor Sergiu Hart, the head of the Humanities Division of the Israel Academy, to give his greetings.
Thank you. So, first of all, welcome to the Israeli Academy of Sciences and Humanities. It's really nice to see all of you here. And let me tell you that this is the first conference of the Israeli Academy in person since the pandemic. So there is some distinction, okay? By the way, I think that the pandemic is now, at least in Israel, seems like it's nearing the end, which I think should be aptly called now an endemic, the end of the pandemic. You know, that's when it goes from global to being local. Hopefully it will become no-demic soon enough, but let's see. Now, let me make just a couple of remarks. I see that this is the 14th conference in the series on the oral tradition and the literacy tradition. And I'm wondering what will be the 64th conference. That's 100 years from now, right? You do it every 2 years, if I understood correctly. Maybe it's going to be on the Zoom tradition instead of the oral tradition. Who knows? It's something in between. It's not exactly oral, it's not written, but there is a record, and it's quite different. We have to adjust to it. Now, here is a puzzle for you. I'll give you a hint before that. I'm the chair of the Humanities Division of the Academy. I'm not in the humanities. I'm a mathematician and an economist. Now, the reason is that, in fact, humanities includes also social sciences, and that's why I am in that division rather than this in the sciences division. But now here is the puzzle. Which discipline has the highest or the most significant oral tradition? Classical studies, biblical studies, mathematics. You'll be surprised, okay? Colloquium in the math department are still given on the blackboard with chalk, even today. Last week, there was a conference in the math department. The whole conference was oral. Everything was no presentation, no computer, no slides. Everything was on the blackboard. You know, you erase, you write, and so on with discussion. Now, this is very important in mathematics, and I'll tell you why. The written tradition in mathematics is extremely formal. It's mathematics, it's logic. It has to be extremely tight, extremely correct. But there is a lot. If you just read papers, you are going to be lost. You have to listen to people explaining it. There is a lot of oral tradition. There is a lot of insights that mathematicians have that usually have no place in the written papers. But it's part of the discourse. When you see mathematicians talk with their hands and say, you know, you put this into this space and you embed it here and you this, you sort of start seeing things that when you read it, you don't see it. So the oral tradition is important not only in classical studies. That's something, some take-home example. And I'm sure that Donna probably can concur with what I said, yes? She knows a mathematician. Okay, so I'm not going to take any time of your real conference. But I want to thank the organizers for really putting up what seems to be a very nice conference, and with a lot of effort. So Margaret Finkelberg, who is a member of the Academy, in fact, let me tell you a secret if you don't know, she has just been elected the next vice president of the Academy, of the Israeli Academy of Sciences and Humanities. Starting in September, she's going to be the vice president of the Academy. And Rachel Zelnick-Abramovitz and Donna Shalev, I guess you are the organizers, so thank you all. And as you'll see by the end of this conference, you'll have to thank a lot the very devoted staff of the Israeli Academy who made all this happen. So I wish you the best conference and continue the good tradition, orally and written and whatever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hart. Now, this conference builds on and continues a long and distinguished tradition of biennial conferences starting back in 1994. These meetings examined in a comparative context orality and literacy in their ancient Mediterranean contexts, occasionally expanding to other cultures. Following the footsteps of earlier orality and literacy gatherings, the present conference aims at comparative study of the ways in which societies negotiate the interaction between an oral culture and its needs for textualization in a multidisciplinary and trans-regional approach. In early April 2019, when Margaret Finkelberg and I, soon joined by Donna Shalev, accepted the challenge of organizing the 14th Conference of Orality and Literacy here in Israel, we could not imagine that this challenge would be so much bigger than organizing any conference of this size. Soon after we started to plan the conference and decided on its venues, the world turned upside down. Countries were locked down, universities and libraries closed, and the global academic community faced a serious slowdown in all areas of activity. I want to thank all of you out there for agreeing to participate even virtually and make this conference work. I warmly thank Ruth Scodell, Deborah Beck, and Aaron Kohler for coming all the way from the United States of America, surmounting unbelievable bureaucratic barriers. As we say in Hebrew, kol hakavod, or well done. The organization of this conference would not have been possible without the funding and the practical help of the teams in the Israel Academy of Sciences and Humanities and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. My special thanks are due to my two resourceful, energetic, and what has been most useful in these last crazy weeks, optimistic partners, Donna Shalev, who can master any problem and task with an amazing efficiency, and Margaret Finkelberg, who, as Professor Hart disclosed, has just recently been elected to the vice president of the Israel Academy. Our gratitude to our assistants, Ronnie Hirsch, who's sitting right here, and Dmitry Ezrochi. Do I pronounce it right? Dana? Okay, thank you. For their useful and wonderful help. We have a very rich program with topics ranging from the epic to lyric poetry to drama, from legal and historical texts to the Bible, from philosophy to fables, from epigraphy to court proceedings. The text analyzed and presented by the speakers originated in ancient Greece and Rome, Iran, Egypt, and Israel, and they ranged from the archaic period to the 7th century CE. I, for one, look forward to learn and enjoy. But before we continue, please note that there are changes to the program. The first session tomorrow morning will be chaired by Donna Shalev instead of Hannah Cotton, who unfortunately broke her elbow, and we all wish her full and quick recovery. Session 4 tomorrow, this is the last session on Monday will be chaired by me instead of Deborah Guerra, who also fell ill, and we wish her too full recovery. On Tuesday, Professor Barak Medina, the rector of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, will open the first session with greetings instead of Donna Shalev.